How many times tonight have you said McKnight was right?
I am so pumped for McKnight tonight.
See if you can work out why it infuriated me. You know I will get hate for speaking to you. Oh, speaking of brands.
Welcome to McKnight Tonight. Now, here's Rob McKnight.
Hello, I'm Rob McKnight. Welcome to a special edition of McKnight Tonight. Why is it a special edition? Well, our normal format is out the window tonight. Instead, the show will be an interview with Craig McLachlan and his partner, Vanessa Scammell. I was off last week and I was recording an interview with Craig and Vanessa about their upcoming show, and you can get details of those shows at craigmclachlan.com.au, and I'll have more information about that. But what happened during the course of this conversation was unexpected. What was meant to be a 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15, sometimes McKnight Tonight interviews go a bit longer. It was meant to be that length. But it ended up being an hour-long conversation based on what has happened to Craig and Vanessa over the past decade. Now, I say what has happened because whatever side you stand on, they've certainly been through it. And yes, I've been told not to air this interview. I've been warned by the media on the left that this is bad for me to dare to run it. Well, you know what? I don't shy away from those things. And I certainly am not afraid to have a conversation with someone who was found not guilty. And yes, the magistrate in that case did have some choice words for Craig, and I was about to say Craig and Vanessa because she's supporting him, but for Craig. And we do address that. In fact, we address much more than I anticipated in this interview. But here's what I'm going to do. We're going to play the interview from Go to Woe, but we are going to take some breaks during the course of the interview to take your feedback live. And if you want to be part of that discussion, if you want to tell me what you're feeling during this interview, it's really simple to do that. Go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/@McKnightTonight. There it is there. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you get notified of future interviews and future live streams. But let us know what you're thinking. I will read the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I will give you my answers and what I feel about what's going on. We'll do that a few times. Rather than wait until the very end, we will do that. So take part in the discussion. Unlike other shows, this is your chance to fully interact with me. As I said, I've been up front. This is a pre-recorded interview. So let's let it begin and play out the whole thing with some breaks. Okay, now to tonight's feature interview. He's a Gold Logie and ARIA Award winner. She is a renowned artist who has conducted the Sydney, Queensland, Melbourne, Christchurch, West Australian and Adelaide Symphony Orchestras, just to name a few. Now they're joining forces for a truly unique performance. Craig McLachlan and Vanessa Scammell, welcome to McKnight Tonight.
Hello.
McKnight Tonight sounds all right.
You'll be right with McKnight, don't you worry.
That's it.
Now,
Lovely
Craig,
to be with you, Robert.
it's good to have you here. The show is called Six String Stories and promises to go behind the scenes of your career. How honest is this show?
Well, it's about as honest as you can get, and it is, as someone pointed out to Vanessa and I only recently, Robert, and they've been to a number of performances of Six String Stories, and jokingly, our dear friend and my offsider, Dave Williams, who's
Yes.
the percussionist with me in the show, we noticed a couple that we'd seen in various theatres around the country, and I jokingly said to them during the show, I said, seriously, haven't you guys had enough yet? Like, really, even I wouldn't come to see me this many times. And they said, we keep coming back because every time we see you, it's different, which is not always easy for Dave. but what they were getting at is often, Robert, I'm really led by the audience. It's very, very interactive. I do set out with as Nessa would tell you, I set out with a set list, and there are songs that I decide that I'm going to play with Dave and all the rest of it. Usually 2 songs into the show, I will think of something, or I might spark off something a member of the audience calls out. And the show is just, to say it's spontaneous is almost an understatement.
Well,
But
Craig, I
if
know
you-
that to be true because just before when we were setting up, you found out my wife's name is Amanda, and you were looking for the guitar to sing Amanda.
And normally I have one here, Robert. So as I mentioned earlier,
You might just have to run out and grab
I may have to
it.
grab one. Your audience, in fact, just talk to Vanessa for 1 second, will you?
Well, Craig, Vanessa, let me ask you. Craig has been doing this show previously without your participation. So, what enhancements are you bringing to the show?
Well, first of all, I grew up in a little town called Yarram in South Queensland, very small town.
And you're taking the show there.
We're taking the show there as one of the special events. My dad used to play in a band for 35 years with his brothers and sisters, and they're very well known in the community for music. And of course, when I became a musician and a conductor, I've had great support from that little country town. So in the end, we were going, where else should we do the show? I said, oh, you should take it to Yarram. And Craig said, well, you should play. So I'll be playing some piano, maybe a bit of ukulele, a little bit of singing, a little bit of percussion. Not stealing his thunder, of course.
Please.
But yeah, so that's how this all sort of.
But Vanessa, are you like my wife that when I start telling stories, she's there going, "Oh, don't tell them this one."
Oh,
Not really about me. I mean, do you know, I've heard them before. Some of them I haven't, to be honest.
Did you hear that, Robert? I've heard of it before.
Some of them I haven't. I think what makes the show so unique, though, as Craig was saying, an idea will come, and it could be from a comment in the audience, or it could be something that Dave says, and then next minute you're off on this other little journey, and people get to know who Craig is and what's been going on through that night.
It is interesting, Robert, because a couple of months ago we played in Frankston, and I hadn't been to Frankston. Gosh, dare I say it? I hadn't been to Frankston since the early check 1, 2 day. Thanks very much.
Geez, that's going back.
Anyway, we had a fabulous gig down in Frankston, but I just played a simple lick on the guitar, and someone called out, oh, they thought it was the opening phrase of the theme from the 1960s television show Green Acres. Now,
Oh, wow.
some of our audience will remember Green Acres is the place to. And of course, my memory, for better or worse, is, well, quite photographic. There are things that I just can't forget, and Green Acres theme is one of them. And so suddenly, without Dave knowing, I launch into the complete theme of Green Acres. That did us to Gilligan's Island theme, and you name it. And things like that just happen. Now, obviously, it's fun and funny for the audience, but I got to tell you, it's a whole lot of fun for me and Dave as well. Dave and Vanessa.
Well, fun for you. Is it fun for Dave?
Well,
There's a catch cry of poor Dave. Every time, and the audience always go, poor Dave.
What about the guys that rocked up to one of the gigs recently and they'd had Poor Dave t-shirts made?
Well, that's true fans.
Yeah.
You know, Craig, controversy has obviously followed you around in the past few years. You know, I will get hate for speaking to you. And that will happen. What do you make of the ongoing campaigns against you? Because, of course, just recently you were forced to withdraw from the Cluedo stage show following a backlash. You're not being left alone, are you?
No, no, no. The great irony, Robert, is that I'm accused of being a bully in the workplace, and I've never witnessed bullying like it. Not just toward me and Vanessa, but to associates, friends, someone like you who invites us on. It's pretty extraordinary, isn't it, that someone who's acquitted 100% not guilty in a criminal matter can have their hopes of a rehabilitation. Let's remember that a magistrate presiding over a case where a person is found not guilty, innocent, is actually not supposed to offer up personal commentary. This is my personal opinion. This has nothing to do with the case, but I'm going to say this. These are brave and honest women, and if things were different, he might have gone down. Well, the bottom line is this. Prosecution still has to prove their case, and they couldn't, and for good reason, because people's stories didn't add up, didn't match up, eyewitness accounts didn't match. How can half a dozen people say, I saw this thing, and yet every story varies so wildly? That magistrate will have her day because she behaved unprofessionally and deliberately set about making sure I couldn't rehabilitate my happy, productive life.
But don't you find it interesting too, Robert, that professional sports people can go back to work? So many professions can go back to work.
Accused of far worse than tickling someone's foot
Yes.
at the Rocky Horror Show.
And yeah, it just shows you that the world we live in, the judiciary system comes second place to social media activism, really.
Well, Craig mentioned the magistrate who was Belinda Wallington. As you said, she found you not guilty, but she did throw you under the bus when she said, and I've got a quote here, the fault element in existence in 2014 was rightly criticised for rewarding the sex offender for their self-absorption. She's basically saying if today's laws had been applied, the result could have been different. That's something your critics have been using against you. Do you think it's fair that you were found not guilty, but there's still a dark cloud hanging above you because of those comments?
It is. It was judicial activism. I'm afraid that's as clear as day. It was judicial activism. She couldn't convict him, so she decided, I'm just going to make some commentary. Now, you've got, I think the thing that people, what is most notable these days is it the cherry picking of quotes. So
yeah, I agree.
They'll go to those ones because it serves them. Great. When she said if the laws were different, it would be possible he may have been found guilty. Now, when you actually read the rulings properly, you will actually discover that when she said that in the actual courtroom, it referred to 2 or 3, I can't remember, 2 or 3 of the 13 charges.
Not the way it's reported, though.
No, and it wasn't a blanket statement like people are using it for. So there are just, but they don't go to the rulings where you'll say, lack of credibility, prone to exaggeration, false memories, all of that are just ignored. And it just, the trial that media and social media and that various members of the music theatre community have chosen to hold on to pretty outrageous.
I'll ask you a quick question. So on the one hand, if a magistrate, even in one of her comments where they're prone to exaggeration, how does a magistrate then come out with her personal commentary, having admitted that they are prone to think about that, prone to exaggeration? Then
I'll tell you what, Craig.
These brave and honest people. Not acceptable.
Well, here's the thing, and I actually had a discussion, a very big discussion with a friend of mine who told me I shouldn't do this interview today. And basically I said, but he was found not guilty. And she said, I don't care. I said, but hang on, how do we work this society? Now, I'm not here to stand up for you. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But what I do know is in a court of law, you were found not guilty. So at what point do you get to move on with your life, having gone through the process of our law?
Well, that's the
That's
question
exactly
that we
right.
ask ourselves every day.
I would
Vanessa,
love to send your friend actual copies of what was given to the press and the
but I
public
don't think it would matter.
in relation to
No, it won't matter. It's already done. The media have decided. They've ruled.
And people do. And Vanessa, it's interesting because you're coming in, you're jumping in, you're Craig's real life partner, in case we haven't established that in this interview. You've stood by him all that time. How hard has it been on you over the past few years with the controversy that's followed him around, because it's reflected on you?
Well, it hasn't reflected on me. I haven't had any issues with work or employment or anything like that. But all I'll say, because there's a lot more that's going to be coming out that you'll be able to hear shortly. But
What's the timeline of that?
I was there in the theatre. I was there. So, I can't give you a timeline yet.
Okay.
but you'll
sorry.
be the first to know, Robert.
Good. Well, you can come back on and tell me.
Yeah,
But you
right.
were saying you were in the theatre, and
Yeah.
so it sounds to me like you're saying that I was there and I was a witness.
I witnessed friendships, years and years of text messages to Craig, people sending photographs of themselves on toilets with their underpants pulled down around their ankles.
Tell that one to your mate.
Right up to 6 weeks before they went to the press. So
Tell
yeah.
that to your girlfriend who refuses to believe that women might lie, that this particular individual sent me a photo of herself sitting on a toilet, porcelain toilet at the Como building, the corner of Toorak Road and whatever road.
Right next to Channel 10.
Yep, right.
Oh, it was Christy Whelan Brown who did that.
Yeah. So the one who made the most heinous allegations, and get your friend to talk to a learned psychiatrist. What do you not do to someone who allegedly bullied and assaulted you in the workplace? You don't send them photos of yourself with your knickers down around your knees on a toilet. You don't laugh with them. You don't send texts to the partner and say, can't wait to catch up for dinner next week. So, you know, these people have got to stop drinking the Kool-Aid and don't just hate me because you ain't me. Vindictive jealousy is at the root of everything, Robert. When someone says, I'm not having the career I should have because of him, he told lies and fucked my reputation. Forgive the language, I'm quoting William.
It's fine.
He told lies. I haven't had a job since Rocky Horror. I know it's him. He told lies and fucked my reputation. There's the motivation. Told lies and fucked my reputation. And what's happened to me, Robert? I don't have to spell it out, do I?
Well, this is the point I'm making. Whether overtly or quietly, you've been cancelled. This interview should be happening on a breakfast TV show, and I'm assuming you pitched for that.
Mainstream media won't touch it. Any story.
No. And also, no, I didn't pitch for those. I don't want to do those. Why would I, Robert?
No.
These are all people who have known me for 40 years in some cases, who know my heart and know my truth. Someone said to me at the time that all this stuff was starting to brew. Someone wrote to me from the ABC, texted me and said, Mac, I can't believe this. They're trying to do a Don Burke on you. That was the quote, right?
Yeah.
And I mentioned this to a couple of my colleagues on the Dr. Blake set. And they said, oh my God, there'll be an army of support for you. People will come out, people who know your heart. I'm still waiting for even a single platoon from that so-called army to come and speak out for me. Everyone.
You know, if this happened now, it might be different, because the Me Too movement was so big at that point in time. And like all movements, they go too far. The intention is good. What they're trying to achieve is good. But then it goes too far where, you know, you can look at someone the wrong way. Now, the problem here is that I come back to it, what was found in a court of law.
And here's a good question for you. Does say, for example, your friend who has that opinion, does she know why Craig was acquitted?
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
Well, no one does, do they?
Do you know why?
Well, I've read, I haven't read the whole judgment, but
No.
from what I saw, through the points, the judge found you not guilty on points, found that it didn't happen, found that, you know, under the laws of the time, and I'll preface it with that, you know, where it talked about intention. And I mean, she referred to ego a lot, Craig, but, you know, if you don't have an ego in the television industry, but there
Well,
was
the point.
Sorry,
Sorry, I was going to say the point on ego is, again, Wallington, she tried Frankenfurter. She didn't try Craig McLachlan.
Yeah.
She wasn't interested in anything Craig McLachlan had to say. She tried Frankenfurter, the egomaniacal, transsexual mad scientist from another planet. And you've only got to go through her rulings to see that she's even used almost verbatim a character description of Frankenfurter that's available online. The whole thing stank to high hell. But when a magistrate says, even though one who is routinely referred to in Melbourne professional circles as the Me Too magistrate, when she can't take you down, and she says herself, the prosecution has failed to convince me on any charge, failed to convince me of Mr. McLachlan's guilt. End of story. But then to make those gratuitous, these are my personal opinion comments. Well,
those comments killed you.
Yeah.
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 Pure and simple. You talked about defamation against the media, and you've mentioned her, Christy Whelan Brown. Why'd you drop that?
Well, very simply, bear in mind that it never cost Whelan Brown a cent. It cost me my life savings, 40 years hard work. Happy hard work, having worked with thousands of people on both sides of the equator. All gone, Robert.
Yeah.
I won't tell you how many millions that was. Her costs are covered by big media because they have to win. They've sold this bullshit. They've got to win. So you imagine you've spent all your money on it. Your family is physically sick. I'm having scans for throat cancer from stress. My beautiful partner's lost all her hair, and they can drag this thing out for God knows how long.
But the big one.
But the big one
the big reason we left the case.
right, is days into the recommencement of defamation, so that now we're physically appearing in court because it was put on hold, remember, while the criminal case played out. We were never told, not face-to-face, not by email, not by carrier pigeon or smoke signal. We were never told until the case had started, by the way, you cannot mention that you were found not guilty in the other matter, in the criminal matter. The jury cannot know. Robert, I put it to you and your beautiful wife, Amanda, why would we proceed with something that's going to cost millions of dollars, particularly when your defamation lawyers have told you ever since the criminal case victory that they don't stand a hope in hell, because the criminal system, criminal courts operate at a higher level of truth. Eyewitness accounts have to match. Stories can't change as they did in our case. You know, everything operates up here. Defamation is a numbers game. They just have to pull in as many people, as many vindictive people who just don't like you anyway, to come in and say, oh yeah, he was awful in the workplace. It just wasn't worth it, Robert. It was not worth it. It was not worth Vanessa's health, my dear late mum, who I lost only weeks ago, around the time of this Cluedo debacle. At some point, you've just got to go, enough's enough. And someone Someone in the media said, oh, he waited to pull out until he'd had his say. I didn't know that I couldn't mention my not guilty verdict. And furthermore, this person in the media saying the women didn't get to have their say. Oh, yes, they did. On the 8th of fucking January, pardon my language, 2018, weeks after sending me pictures of themselves sitting on a dunny, they had their say. So do not come back to me when I pull the pin protecting my family, when those women had already had their ruinous, exaggerated, and as we discovered in the most brutal way, fabricated events. Robert, if you're having to admit under oath that you would routinely goose me, give me wedgies. The other thing they fall back on is, I don't recall giving him a goose, and then putting it to them. You understand that's not a denial? Yes. So if I'm being goosed, given wedgies, admitted to trying to pull my pants down, this was the culture on that show.
Well, can you talk to me about that, Craig?
Let me just finish. So when under oath, you have to admit that that was the culture on that show.
You're talking about them admitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I want all those people like your friends to just think about that for a moment. Now that's what they were doing to me on a daily basis, virtually. Now that's not reported in the media, is it?
Hello. Slight technical problem there, sorry. We are live. We have interrupted live to take some of your feedback. A couple of things. In a moment, we're going to find out what happens behind the scenes during the theatre, what the environment is like. And so that will be one of the first questions I ask Craig when we come back for part 2 of this interview. In the meantime, I've seen a bit of commentary asking what was he actually accused of. So he was charged with a total of 13 counts, comprising 7 counts of indecent assault and 6 counts of common law assault. And so what he was alleged to have done, he was allegedly pressed his penis against complainant CB's body while being aware that CB was not consenting or giving no thought to consent. He denied that in court. Kissed CB on the mouth while aware of non-consent or giving no thought to consent. From memory, there was a director who had apparently told that witness that she wouldn't have to kiss Craig, but that was never told to Craig, and it was part of the scene. Kissed CA on the mouth while aware of non-consent or not giving consent to thought. Kissed CA on the neck. Ran his hand up the inner thigh of CC, and we will talk about that in the next section. And allegedly partially traced down the joint of CD's labia. And there's some variations on that. But let's get to the feedback that's coming through to McKnight tonight on this interview. Great to see Rob running the interview. Thank you, King Penguin 2. Craig being very formal in referring to Rob as Robert. You know, I get that sometimes, especially with people from English backgrounds, as in from the UK. I grew up in Housing Commission and I was always Robert, and I was very working class. My dad was English, but everyone called me Robert. And as soon as I went to uni, they started calling me Rob. So I don't know if Craig is from an English background or not, but yeah, I did pick up on that as well. Beck says, look, I believe that you can't be as big a star as Craig is and not be a little bit of a bully to a degree. Beck, I think power corrupts in a way. And sometimes when you're in a position of power, you don't realize how people are reacting to you. You don't realize that people are just being friendly with you because you are in that position. I felt that at Studio 10, to be honest, when I left there and found out who my real friends were. But I think it's unfair to say that if you are a star, I've met lots of lovely people who haven't been bullies, and I don't know Craig personally, so I'm not here to vouch for him, and I'm not an advocate for his story, but I'm here to find out. And another thing about this interview, they didn't know this was coming. They genuinely thought they were just promoting the show, but I've never just done an interview where I get someone on. I always look for something to talk about. And you guys know me, most of the people watching this, and you know that I will always ask those questions. Did I expect it to go for this long? Absolutely not. Did I know every detail of this case? Absolutely not, because I wasn't preparing a 60 minutes interview. You know, I hadn't gone through every page of everything in this, in preparation for this interview. So it became a much bigger thing than I expected. Brad's Merling 4338 says he was found guilty. I think you mean not guilty, because they couldn't prove the intent behind his actions. The judge did believe the actions took place. Yeah, I don't think that's as clear cut, but more of that will come up during the interview. Jubilee Avenue says, yep, a different story for some sports stars who get redeemed and not this. That's very true. Over the page we go. And we've got this one from Nicole. I have never been a big fan of Craig's, but I do feel for him with everything that he's gone through and is going through. Thank you, Nicole. Over the page. And we've got Matthew, trial by media. I do agree with that. Michael Jackson had more support and was accused of far worse, and it hasn't gone away despite his death. That's from Own Your Own Crazy. Over the page, Beck says, my other concern is that there must have been something to take it all to court. No, that's what our court system is. And what I will say is that there was obviously enough for prosecutors to say we've got enough here to go to court on. So you're absolutely right there, Beck. And intent did play a big part, and the relationships. I think things get trickier when it comes to theatre because there's things that would not happen in a normal workplace, but we will discuss that more in a moment. Dana Murphy says, unfortunately, Craig has been caught up in the media world that firmly believes in cancel culture. This has to change. Over the page we go. Terry Halliday says, I went to school with Craig and I know he hated bullying at school and he still hates it as an adult. I will always be behind him and always will. Fair enough. Over the page we go. King Penguin 2 says, acting is a risky job for a middle-aged straight white guy. Clearly doesn't even fraternise with the cast. Clearly don't even fraternise with the cast off the clock. That is the lesson in 2025. There's no doubt about that. You've got work and you have to be very careful who become your friends because they're not always your friends. Jubilee Avenue again says, the sad reality of some media, they have made up their minds and can't change. Certainly true, and that comes into this whole cancel culture thing. Own Your Crazy says the law has to be respected. It doesn't always get it right, but when it does, the law serves us well. And this is my point to Own Your Crazy, that we have to respect the rule of law, but there is still a mob mentality. Sue Chrysanthu, who does a lot of defamation, you would have heard, she was not defending, prosecuting for Lisa Wilkinson, defending in the Bruce Lerman trial, and she has done a lecture, and I'm going through that at the moment. We might talk about it more tomorrow, about cancel culture and the mob mentality and why it's a bad thing. So that's very interesting from her, who is highly respected. All right, we do have more of this, and I will take more of your feedback. Keep it coming through, the positives, the negatives. I want to know what you're thinking, and we will return to the interview in progress with Craig McLachlan and his partner Vanessa. You're watching McKnight Tonight. Here's the thing regarding my friend. Let me be clear. It's not my wife, Amanda. It's a friend.
No, I didn't presume it was.
No, it's a friend who's a very hard lefty who we are very good friends, but we argue all the time. You've mentioned what happens, because talk to me about the theatre environment. I've always heard things are pretty loose behind the scenes. You know, I've seen enough working in television. I've worked in TV for 30 years and I've seen some stuff that would shock viewers. But in the theatre, everything I've always heard, it's people are running around half naked. It's all it's like a family where it's boisterous and people are playing, and I don't know. Talk to me. What is a typical, maybe not now, but back then, what was it all like?
Well, I'll give you an example.
Oh, yeah, I've got you laughing,
Yeah.
so something's
Yeah, no,
triggered.
look, it's we all wanted to be in the theatre. It was like running away to the circus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I can't really bring myself to say that girl's name. We've already given her 2 shots at another 15 minutes here today. But there were witnesses in our case who came forward and would say they never encountered anyone more outrageous than this particular woman. And that's okay. It didn't worry me. I knew that it was all just, for shock value and for laughs. But when they call prosecution witnesses in, Robert, and barristers say, what was life like backstage on Rocky? And they're going, there's a particular fellow we worked with, a very flamboyant gay guy who was a friend of ours as well, would say, oh, what do you mean? And the barrister says, well, would you hit each other's bums? Oh, yes. What else would you do? Oh, we'd sit on each other's laps. We'd kiss. We'd lounge on each other. We'd lie on each other. Would you tweak Mr. McLachlan's nipples? Oh, gosh, yes, I'm sure I did. On and on and on. There was one particular guy, let's call him Chris Nicto. Not his real name, but it's close to his real name. This was a dude who just lived backstage in a pair of old cotton underpants. I think they were yellow or green. I tried not to look at them. They'd be dry humping you. In fact, the guy who played narrator had to pull him aside one day and say, hey, listen, the dry humping is getting a bit out of control, mate. I mean, and just for the record, I didn't dry hump anyone, but yeah, it's loose, it's wild, but it was always, you understood that it was just naughty, juvenile, silly, pranky behavior.
Not sexual behavior.
Not sexual.
I
And to
didn't
put a
ever
morbid,
witness that.
to put a morbid
No.
construct on it when
No.
it suits you
No.
is wicked.
It's hard to go, and I've worked in theatre for years as well. And yeah, it's playful, it's creative, it's free. I've worked in theatre also for a long time. I've never seen, again, any conduct that is threatening or sexual in nature, as it wasn't in the Rocky Horror Show either. And I think really when you go into the case, the whole reason the community standards of the Rocky Horror Show were a playful, perhaps unrecognizable workplace situation for a magistrate or someone who works in a post office, but for anyone who works in theatre, they know. And to pretend that it is otherwise is actually
It was, yeah. Again, it speaks volumes that none of these individuals in my case, these 3 women, when asked about what the backstage culture was like for television interviews and so on, well, there was none. That is a lie. And it all became glaringly obvious in the case that, no, it was a lewd, cheeky, naughty, funny. People would do anything to crack me up on stage, and I would do the same. When I say anything,
I get you.
within the parameters of the typical goofing that went on,
So let me ask you this. You would have been shocked when the allegations came out, I imagine, right? You're like, where the hell did this come from? Do you then take a moment of reflection to go, well, hang on, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this point where people I'm working with have taken my intentions, which were just fun and playful? How did it become this? How has it turned into a court case? And do you ever think back and go, okay, well, maybe I could have done things differently. Maybe I made mistakes. What's your take on all that?
Well, look, to say, I've had 8 years to contemplate all of this. And I've had, when you go into a case like this, unfortunately, you have to get acquainted, or you have to read, listen to, watch, view material, read material that is very difficult to digest. People you thought for years, before that particular production in 2014, people you thought were your friends, saying awful things about you, awful things about your partner, people we'd see on the street and hug. And so the big thing for me, Robert, and the thing that, well, there are so many layers. There's so much pain, but for me, it's the duplicity. It's the duplicity to look someone in the eye and say you love them, to look at your partner and go, oh, we're out of control together on this TV show we were doing. We should have our own series.
Post-Rocky Horror.
This is post-Rocky Horror.
Mm.
But then to have to look at and listen to material that is the unhinged jealousy and nastiness, I was never aware of any of it. And moreover, with certain personalities on that show, if something had happened, like this alleged 1 second touch of the top of an individual's
Private parts. How ridiculous.
That individual, if that had happened, and it could only have happened accidentally with all, and this is an individual had to admit in court under oath that we goofed around a lot, and the goofing around was often physical, and that she in fact looked forward to certain scenes because we could ad lib a little bit and there'd be the opportunity to make me laugh and vice versa. That touch could only have happened accidentally, and we proved that overwhelmingly in a criminal case. Overwhelmingly, even when the stories changed. The story changed multiple times before it arrived at what it finally arrived at in court. It changed during proceedings. It could only have happened accidentally. If that person, my friend, had said to me at the time, when we were goofing around last night in the dark, you know, you accidentally poked me on the top of the boo-boo. If she'd said anything, I would have apologized. I would have been horrified, firstly, because she was my friend.
Mm.
Her husband, I'd known him since he was a teenager. It was never mentioned. This is someone, however, who would formally complain because someone jumped out and spooked her in the dark from behind a bit of scenery. She never mentioned it to me. She never mentioned it to her husband. She never mentioned it to anyone until it suited her. And the first version I heard of it bore no resemblance in the material I've seen to what...
Why did it suit her?
I've said enough as it is, Robert. You know what show business is like.
Well, I'll just add that when the 2017 production came around that Craig was cast in, the three of the women were approached to rejoin the cast. They had no issues. There was no mention of Craig, oh, well, I won't do it because Craig's in it or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then they didn't get the job.
And you've got to bear in mind, Robert, that there is a fellow, and he appeared in court. And he said one of these individuals, this fellow auditioned as well. He was from 2014 cast. He came back and did it in 2015, and he re-auditioned for 2017-18. He bumped into one of the girls who re-auditioned. The worst thing she could say about me doing it again was...
That was Angela Skundi.
Yeah. So she calls up her best mate, and don't mention her, the best mate's
No.
It's not worth it.
No.
And said, oh, are you auditioning again? I have to because Rocky's like an old fuck buddy. I can't get enough. And says, and you know Craig's doing it, and the best she could go was boring. Anyway, da-da-da-da-da-da. Not, he terrifies me. Not, he bullied me. Not, he was inappropriate. Not, he took all his clothes off in front of me. Boring. This is someone, too, who I had to endure material that she was saying every time he walks out on stage. Every time he walks out on stage, and they scream for him and they cheer for him, and they scream and they cheer. And I have to keep telling myself, they're not screaming for him, they're screaming and cheering for the character. Robert, I don't care who you are. That sort of unbridled jealousy is not just unhinged. To me, it's terrifying. That's Mark Chapman territory. And this is what I've dealt with and what I continue to deal with.
That's interesting. How do you
So-
think?
So when these
Sorry,
people,
go on.
so when she didn't get the role, she storms into this friend who made the magistrate aware of this in court and said, I know I didn't get it because of him. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm going to get him. You think about that. I know I didn't get it because of him. I'm going to can get him.
And that was evidence given in an open court, but the media didn't report it.
How do you think people will find this interview? Considering if the people I'm talking about, your accusers, they'll obviously think I've been very sympathetic to you, and on some levels I am, because I said it near the beginning that I have ADHD, right? And sometimes things are black and white to me.
Welcome to the club.
So I look at a situation where accusations have been made. It ended up in court. You were found not guilty. The world moves on. If there's more accusations, if there's more to be said, then bring it to court. That is our rule of law, for good or for bad. And there are people that get away with things. I understand that. But I do struggle with this idea, excuse me, that they never want you to work again.
Correct. We do too.
Listen, again, I'm privy to material that you haven't been privy to. He told lies and fucked my reputation. I know that's why I'm not having the career I should have. Robert, come on. How many years in television? How many years did you spend in television?
Oh, I've met people like that.
Listen, from Ramsay Street to Dr. Blake, I've heard it all. I would hear this woman talk about someone she on the street pretends to be best friends with and say, I can't believe that bitch has got a career. You know, okay, she can sing a bit, but she can't act worth a fuck. And on and on and on. Vanessa's heard it. And for anyone who wants to go out there and say, oh, well, you know, Vanessa would say that. No. Vanessa was in the dressing room almost every night of every city that tour went on. She heard it all. She saw me get whacked on the bum. She saw me get goosed and wedgied. I'm laughing about it because if you read this shit in a script, you wouldn't believe it unless you worked in Australian show business.
True.
There's David Campbell telling me how much he loves me weeks before his wife's best friend pulls this with the media. You know, there's a lot of vindictive, malicious behavior out there. And if I'd been an asshole over the course of 40 years, and I won't mention any names of those who are genuine assholes. But
I know plenty of them too.
yeah. And so you might expect to get called out eventually. But when your reputation was anything but, when Vanessa gets stopped on the street by actors saying, oh, Vanessa, I understand Craig's created the most wonderful work environment on Dr. Blake, which went for what we shot for 6 years. And Joe can
And would
say,
still be going if they hadn't got rid of you, because I genuinely do believe. And when they replaced you, the show fell apart pretty quickly. And I don't think people in the media understand that, honestly, if they did Dr. Blake today with you in the title role, it would be a success. I think there's I don't think there's an understanding of the support that you still have out there.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, when Craig put up his statement for leaving Cluedo the other day, it's got something like 1.5 million views and hundreds of thousands of comments in support. Yet the producers caved in to basically a lynch mob of, 500 comments they said, and just ignored the thousands. And that's fear. And that's the world we live in today, where we're now being cast by trolls, by lynch mobs. It's an
Craig,
industry.
how do you feel about that? They they knew your past. They put you in this job and they ran at the first sign of trouble.
Yep. We won't say too much on it though, yet.
Is there action coming?
Oh, look, I can't really comment on it, but
Well, how about to say we're disappointed?
yeah,
would be an understatement.
Yeah.
In the producers of the show.
and also, and then of course, Robert, in this era we live in, then lies are perpetrated by people saying, because I was told in no uncertain terms that the actors who were named alongside me when the press release came out about Cluedo, pardon me, that's from having too much coffee this morning. I wanted to be.
Don't worry. Usually on this show, I've got a glass of wine next to me.
Yeah. I mean, it was made very clear to me that after the announcement, these two other actors were being trolled horrendously
By association.
in some cases by their peers, right? Now, I couldn't let that stand. I wasn't going to let these two people experience what I've experienced for so many years. But then all of these lies are peddled about, the actors didn't know McLachlan was. Yes, they did.
Of course
I
they
was
did.
told that they had to sign non-disclosure agreements, and they were excited to be working with me. Then a lie comes out. The director had no idea. Yeah.
Well, that's just not feasible. That's just not how things work. That's bullshit.
We've got the texts and emails sorting out when he came up to the house for a coffee months and months and months before the announcement was made.
Of course.
This stuff is peddled by a few people in this noisy but small little group. And of course, people who perhaps aren't considered read that shit and go, oh, the poor buggers didn't even know. That's horrendous. And it's all lies.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, as I prefaced that little story, these are the times we live in, sadly.
I wonder when producers will be brave enough to actually stand up for the people that they want to employ. I'm just not sure when that's going to happen.
They're not in the Australian industry.
No.
They get scared of everything. And look, I've got to give it to you too. When this interview was organised, no restrictions were put on me. We're here to talk about the show, which if you include half of this, is going to be one hell of a show.
Don't the audiences get a pretty good taste of what has been going on, and that's one way for us to be able to, and for Craig mainly, to be able to actually talk, because no one else will let him.
Yeah, well, you didn't get up and walk away when I started going down this path. You've been very open and honest. Obviously, I don't know every fact. I don't know every detail of every story you've told. So, I take it all on face value. But I do have a problem with the cancel culture in this country. And I think that people should be able to get on with it. Do you ever think, okay, let me ask you this question. Do you think you owe anyone an apology, Craig?
Oh, that has come up so often, hasn't it, in the last little bit?
Let's just think about it, Robert. And this came up in the criminal matter. If anyone had said to me in 2014, oh, I didn't like that joke.
Yeah.
Hey, when you tickled me before I went on stage on the ankle, I kind of lost my concentration. Can you not do that again? I would have gone, oh my God, of course. I'm so sorry. I just thought you would laugh, If anyone had said to me at any point that something I did or said made them feel in any way uncomfortable, intimidated, life is all about intention, isn't it? If it's your intention to walk into that news agency and rob it and you get caught, I've never walked into any workplace situation, or just not in life, but I've never, ever, it's never been my intention to intimidate people, make them feel less than, to undermine their confidence. So if anyone had said to me at any time, hey, I don't feel comfortable with this, I would have apologized immediately, and I would never have, I would never have engaged in that kind of joke or prank or whatever ever again. And again, being privy to what I've had to read and listen to, what I'm sorry about is I'm sorry I agreed to do that fucking job with that cast, if I'm sorry about anything, because they led me to believe that we were all in this together. Remember, the prosecution witnesses, we tweaked his nipples, we did this, we hit him on the bum, and so on and so on and so on.
And so how do you apologize? How do you apologize to people when you were so blindsided? The first we knew of it was on the front page of every newspaper in Australia. I mean, we were blindsided. They didn't ever approach us or Craig directly. No one did before the newspaper and say, hey, Craig, these allegations have come up. Or we would like to talk to you and this is how we felt. There was nothing like that. It was about a big media story. It was got nothing to do with assault or indecent behaviour. It was about a story, and they needed a pin-up boy for Australia, and they got one.
You were blindsided by people you thought were your friends.
Correct.
Yeah. And also, Robert, I understand that Network 7 got their hands on some material of those women being coached. Trust me when I say that was just the tip of the iceberg. That's only...
That was in the 7 News Spotlight special where you did an interview. And just to be clear, I have previously worked on Spotlight, and I worked on Spotlight after that interview, and I do know some details around that. And that was quite telling. And, the ABC still stood by their reporting with those interviews, and actually turned on the executive producer, Mark Llewellyn, and talked about how they'd put their credibility above his. So they certainly weren't backing down despite what the tape showed.
Yeah, well, yeah. They perhaps have short memories in terms of what Channel 7 legal department chose not to show, because they didn't want to end up in a court case themselves. It was the tip of the iceberg. So it stinks from top to bottom. But you're asking me if someone had come to me on any gig that I was ever doing and said, hey, you made me feel uncomfortable with X, Y, or Z, I would have apologized unreservedly in the moment. And we probably would share a self-deprecating joke at my own expense, and that would be that. But years down the track, after continuing to send loving messages to both of us for years, then to audition for the show, or conversely, be consumed with rage when you didn't get a job on the show, knowing I was doing it. Come on, there's got to be some considered smart people in your audience, Robert, who can join the dots here without me having to spell it out.
Well, it'll be interesting because when this goes out, we will be having the feedback live. So we will find out what people think. Let's end on some positive notes because it's been very grueling for both of you. This show, as I said, if it sounds like if you're going to say half of what you've talked about tonight, people are in for a treat with some songs as well. Let me, for a moment, go through the tour dates, okay? Because it is 6 string stories. Saturday, the 8th of November at the Regent Theatre in Yarra, Victoria, and of course, Vanessa, that's the one where you make your debut in your hometown. We've got the J Noosa in Queensland on Saturday the 15th, Saturday the 13th of December, the Estate Camden in New South Wales. Now, look, you can get tickets at the venues or via the venues, or it's very easy to go to craigmclachlan.com.au. It's, I think you've got a section there that says tour dates, and you've got links to buy tickets and all that kind of stuff. It's actually very well set up. So what's one little surprise you're going to put in the show? I'm trying to end on a light.
Oh, well, and look, when we talk about the show's fun and up and joyous, and there might be a couple of moments that are referenced, but there's some juicy moments.
There's some juicy moments, but it's not what the show's about. The show's about, look, we talk about
That's another show.
We talk about we talk about the 8 years of hell, and it has been.
Yeah.
And we talk about the cancel culture in Australia. Now, the haters are going to hate me saying this, but they won't ever cancel me, Robert. They can't cancel the ability to do that. They won't cancel the gold and multiple silver Logies, the ARIA Awards. Now, this isn't me blowing smoke at my own derriere.
You are a Gold Logie winner and an ARIA Award winner. That can never be taken away.
And a Helping winner as well.
And remember, this is when my dear, dear fellow Australians had to go out and buy a copy of TV Week or multiple, fill them out, send in their things. And my relationship with my audience, as is proved to me constantly, it's a very emotional thing sometimes, Six String Stories, because the support from the people outside of the world of musical theatre has been overwhelming, and it's been important for me to go out and feel that and experience that and know that, because you lose sight of it. You isolate, which is exactly what the haters want. So to get out there and to enjoy these nights with these people. Yes, there are moments in the show where I address the elephant in the room, but in doing so, we're setting the elephant free. We're letting him off the chains. We're freeing him from captivity, and the elephant is now roaming across the grasslands of the savannah. And it's a very, very joyous night, but it is...
That wasn't a tortured metaphor at all.
And it is peppered with some emotive stuff.
But the big special one for the Yarram gig is that my dad, Cliff Scammell, will be making an appearance with us.
Oh, fantastic.
And Cliff is a legend.
He's a legend in the area.
In that region.
So for anyone who wants to buy tickets to see Cliff Scammell, my dad, everyone knows who he is, who in our life. That's going to be just a marvellous thing to witness.
And so if you don't want to come and see Ness and you don't want to come and see me, come to see Cliff.
He's very talented.
He's very good.
CraigMcLachlan.com.au. Craig, give us a few bars of something as we say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your honesty.
Thanks, Robert. And listen, you reached out ages ago for us to join you on this, and I'm so glad that we finally were able to do it with you. Thank you for being so fair, so good-humoured, and just being a lovely bloke. And for your other half, going crazy girl. Is it anyone heard? My change the day I met you. Even though you're off camera, but I know you're there somewhere. I know the spell Robert and I are under. My head does what my heart tells it to.
Whoa!
You know it, right? I knew it right from the start.
Whoa!
A place for both of you in my heart. I'm in love with. I'm in love with girl from down and I'm in love with. I'm in love with Robert and Amanda. Welcome to the mix there, Amanda. You know how he can be.
You're only human, Craig. Genuinely, guys, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm glad you said I was fair, because I do try to be fair, and I don't fall for the cancel culture, and I like to find out the thoughts from people themselves, and that's why I'm always open to these kind of interviews. And I appreciate you guys just being honest. This was probably meant to be a 15-minute interview, and it's gone.
Oh my God.
I've got all these missed calls from my next ones. Yes.
So apologies for taking you so long, but I do appreciate it. And to me, it's a moment of record, and you've had your chance to have your say. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I just hope you can edit it down.
No, it's going as is. I warned you at the start. In, out, publish.
Done.
Good on you.
Thanks so much. Lovely to meet you.
You too. Cheers.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Okay, that's it. A couple of things. I've seen some commentary about bad form of getting the guitar out at the end. They were here to promote something, okay? And I took up an hour of their time, which was not planned, and they sat there while I asked them all the questions, and they were, I think gracious is the word, enough to do that. And so I think having a go at me for bringing back the interview to what they were trying to talk about, well, I'll cop that criticism, but I stand by what I did. And look, you couldn't hear the guitar because Zoom, we do our interviews using a Zoom link, compresses the audio. So apparently there's a setting you can do to get musical instruments, but I didn't know he was going to play the guitar, and we didn't do that. All right, let's take a look at some of the feedback that is coming through, because there's a lot of it tonight. And we've got this one from Beck. Can someone explain to me what the laws and how the laws work? I know that sounds silly, but Rob made a comment earlier saying that if this was the laws that would have happened in 2014, you would have been done. Well, no. So what happened? In 2015, the laws in Victoria changed. So what happened is, before that, a sexual assault was about intent. But afterwards, it was about the action. So they were two different rules of law. Now, the judge made the point that under the 2015 laws, the ruling could have been different, but she had to base it on intent, and she did not believe his intention was the way it was interpreted. Now, the comments, while she's free to make those, the problem with those comments is they're a hypothetical, because even if he was to be tried under those 2015 laws, the case would still have to be proven against him. So he still has a presumption of innocence until found guilty. That's the thing we have in this country. It's a presumption of innocence, and we have a court law system. And this is why I do struggle with this idea of basically condemning people when they've been found innocent. Let's go over the page. Gareth has had a few criticisms. Why focus on Christy Willem Brown when she's not here to respond? There were many other accusers. Terrible interview. Well, Gareth, obviously, fair to your opinion, and I never shy away from the negatives to anything we do here on McKnight Tonight. But here's what I'll say. The accusers came out. They did interviews. He did an interview where he put his side of the table. We know what they have said. And if Christy Willem Brown wants to come on and have a chat about it, I'm happy and here to listen. And the thing is, I'm not an advocate, but I am interested in hearing stories, and I'm not going to cancel people. People do interviews with serial killers, and this guy is not a serial killer, and he has effectively been cancelled. And he's been found not guilty in a court of law. Whatever the asterisks are next to that, he is still being found not guilty, and that is our law system. All right, Matt says, it's still pretty raw for Craig. I totally get it, and it's all these crazies in the industry who will stab anyone in the back. We've also got this one coming through to McKnight Tonight from Renee. I've loved Craig for a long time, and meeting Craig, enjoying performing in Six String Stories has been the best experience. What a beautiful person Craig is. Over the page we go. Own Your Crazy says, can you imagine musicals in the 60s and 70s, ones like Hair? I believe the cast was naked on stage. Indeed they were during the show. Imagine how loose people got. Yes, and that's you don't excuse anything, but theatre culture is not like going into an office. It is huggy, or it has been. Maybe things are changing now. It's all very lovey-dovey, huggy. People are a bit loopy. It's a place for artists, and artists don't always follow the same society rules. And I'm not excusing anything. I'm just trying to give context. Beck says, and Beck has had a lot to say tonight, as the neurodivergent person, I know a lot about misinterpretations because I misinterpret things regularly. So why put yourself in a position where misinterpretations can happen negatively? And that's a fair point, Beck, and I'm sure people like Craig wouldn't now. But the problem is, at that point, it was sort of a norm. And the backstage antics, just seem to be, and I've never worked in the theatre, but I've seen enough in my time to know that things are a bit crazy behind the scenes. Jubilee Avenue says some didn't want Craig to be in the Cluedo, then don't buy tickets and watch it. Sounded like most people did and now miss out. And I think people will still watch him in productions, but I don't think that will be happening anytime soon. Gavin, I know that's Gavin. Gavin Wright says, so no intimacy coach was ever allowed backstage. Now, this is a really interesting point, Gavin. You would have to say on a show like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, from this point onwards, there should always be an intimacy coach. And the rules in the theatre need to be stricter. Brad says, but those colleagues likely felt uncomfortable bringing these things up as Craig McLachlan was the star. Fair point. He may not have intended to harass colleagues, but there was still a power imbalance. Now, Brad, power imbalance is absolutely something I believe in. And I became good friends with, well, at the time, I became good friends with a lot of people at Studio 10 when I was running that show. What I didn't realise was the power imbalance. And I didn't realise those people were being friends with me to curry favour from the boss. I thought it was genuine, and it wasn't. And so that was a real learning curve. And rightly or wrongly, I've learnt about power imbalance, and I do accept it's a thing, because I do think we act differently with those that have, can hire or fire us and are in charge of us. So I absolutely agree with the power imbalance scenario. Terry Halliday says, what I want to know is why would these women go to the media first and not to the police? Yes, I have lost a few friends because I've supported Craig, but I don't care as they are not true friends. And I think that's a very good question. Sometimes people go to the media because they feel like they are not being heard with authorities and they're trying to force a situation, and maybe it's their version of revenge. I'm not speaking to this case, I'm just talking about in general. And it is a complicated thing. If what Vanessa said, that the first they learned of it was on the front page of the paper, that's a hell of a way to find out this is all happening. Own Your Crazy says, again, where are the producers and the director? It is not their job to rein in. Is it not their job to rein in a cast's behaviour when they start crossing the line, much like a sports coach should? Yes, absolutely. Again, it all comes down to theatre culture, which I think now is going through a reckoning. But even as late as 2014, we're still a very different place. Beck says, I do feel that Craig hasn't done a proper apology. I'm sorry because of the actions that I did. If you just apologise, even if he didn't do it, sometimes it's about interpretation. Yeah, and I think that comment came through before I asked him the apology question. And I can see how there would be an anger when you haven't had the chance to apologise before it turned into this. But again, power imbalance, they might have not felt comfortable. It's very, very messy. It's a very messy situation, and there are no winners here. Matt says, I just missed what Matt said, but hey, we went to this one from Darren that said, great interview, really well done, Rob. Thank you very much, Darren. I really do appreciate it. We've got Matt's one back. Rob knows the type of people Craig is talking about in the industry, and us as viewers are aware of it now in the last decade. Yes, it's all coming out now. Celebrities used to be able to hide behind basically their publicists who had control of the media. We now have shows from my garage like Media McKnight where we can tell the stories that hadn't been told before. People could be silenced. Lakeside says, glad Craig got to have his say. Well done. Get sick of one-way traffic. We've got this one as well. Gareth says, Craig needs to do a proper apology. Till he does, I can't see him ever working again. All right, just looking at quickly. Thank you, Jeanette, for saying well done. Look, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. It'll be interesting to see what people say to me about this. This interview won't make everyone happy, but it was an unexpected chat, and thank you for watching, and thank you for your feedback. Here at McKnight Tonight, we We bring it all, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We will be back tomorrow with another normal show. Random Live Shot of the Day is back. I'll make sure I fit in a back-end quickie, and we'll also have a Rob's Rant as well as the topics of the day. I hope you can join me tomorrow at 9 p.m. at youtube.com/@McKnight Tonight. I'm Rob McKnight. It's good night from McKnight.
It's good night from McKnight Tonight.